My name is Marnie Lockridge, I'm 34, and in a family full of loud, brilliant overachievers, I've always been the quiet mistake in the background, the youngest, the softest, the one everyone talked over and talked down to. While my siblings built careers and reputations, I wiped tables at a downtown restaurant and pretended it didn't sting when they called my life cute. I learned early how to disappear, how to endure, how to swallow humiliation like medicine, but nothing prepared me for the betrayal waiting in my own house. If I had listened to my instincts instead of trying to prove I wasn't the family's weakest link, I might have seen the danger sooner. Because 5 hours after the text that woke me at 5 a.m., I finally understood why they wanted me alone. The buzz of my phone jerked me upright. 5:02 a.m. The room was still dark, Leo snoring faintly beside me. I blinked at the screen. One unread message. Come alone. Don't tell your husband. There's something you must see. No sender name. Just a number. But I knew the rhythm of that blunt text. Rafe Calder. My heart ticked once, then fast. I stared at Leo's bare shoulder rising and falling. My thumb hovered. Another message popped up. You need to come now. Bring ID. I'm sorry. I slid out of bed. Every step across the wood floor felt like walking over a trap. Cold air bit through my shirt. I didn't grab a jacket. I didn't even leave a note. Some silences scream loudest when they're planned. Savannah Rouge stood like a crime scene. Hushed, elegant, waiting. The front sign was still lit. Not a soul in sight. My headlights cut across the wet pavement, beams flashing over the gold-lettered door. The side entrance creaked open before I knocked. Rafe looked like he hadn't slept. Button-up wrinkled. Dark circles bruised under his eyes. His voice was shredded. You can't tell Leo you were here. Not yet. He didn't wait for a response. Just turned and led me through the back hallway, past the stainless steel prep stations, into the storage office. Small desk. One folding chair. Tablet waiting on top. Paused frame on screen. Static buzzed low. This showed up in the security audit at 3 a.m., he said. I wasn't even supposed to see it. But I did. And you have to. I sat down. He hit play. The timestamp blinked. 10:23 p.m. Wedding night. The camera angle looked down over the back corridor, just beyond the kitchen. I saw Leo. Black suit. Champagne in hand. Then Julia. Silver dress. Laughing. They slipped through a side door. Together. Not drunk stumbling. Deliberate. Where is that? I whispered. The restricted cellar, Rafe said. Staff only. No cameras inside. But this is the last thing it caught before the system glitched. He didn't need to say it. I felt the sick gravity pull. The room shrank. Leo. And Julia. Not a mistake. Not a misunderstanding. My best friend. My maid of honor. And my new husband. Rafe stepped back, giving me space to collapse inward. I didn't want to believe it either, he muttered. But there's more. He slid a small black USB stick across the desk. A single word etched on it in Sharpie. Lockridge. My name. There's a video on that, Rafe said. And a few files. But I didn't open them. I thought you should decide if you're ready for what's in there. I didn't answer. I just stared at the USB like it was ticking. Something deep inside me cracked, not loud but clean. Like a pane of glass just before it falls apart. People always think the real danger is in strangers, Rafe said quietly. But it's not. It's the ones who know you best. The ones who know exactly what to take. I reached for the drive with hands that didn't feel like mine. I think you're being set up, Marnie, and last night wasn't just a wedding. I held the USB like it might bite. The weight of it, too light, too clean, felt wrong in my hand. Like a secret pretending to be harmless. Rafe plugged it into his laptop. No passwords, just a folder labeled Personal Lockridge Estate. 4 files, 2 PDFs, 1 audio file, 1 video. I haven't opened them, he said again, voice low. But I heard Julia mention it last week. She was careless. Said something about pulling the trigger at the wedding. I thought she meant drama. Turns out, she did. Click. The video loaded. Grainy, fixed angle, office security camera. Julia's face filled the frame. Tilted, smiling, teeth too white. Leo entered seconds later. He didn't hesitate. No hug. No hesitation. Just a kiss. Fast. Hungry. Like they'd done it 100 times before. I didn't flinch. I watched. Then she pulled something from her clutch. A flash drive. Red cap. She slipped it into his palm like a tip. His mouth moved. Rafe turned up the volume. She won't know. She trusts me completely. Just a few more days. Julia laughed. Then we split it. 50-50. And you can finally stop pretending. Cut. Silence. The room didn't breathe. Neither did I. Rafe spoke, voice cautious. You're calm. I thought you'd scream. I'm not calm, I said. I'm calculating. The first PDF opened with a click. Title: Lockridge Estate Transfer Agreement. At the top, my full name. My signature. But I never signed it. I stared at the S-curve of the forged M, the slanted lowercase r. It was perfect. Almost. Except I don't loop my L like that. And I always the I before the rest. Leo knows that. Legally, the document appeared flawless. Notarized, dated 2 weeks ago. Filed through the county clerk. I checked the code in the corner. Valid. Official. Meaning the house, the one I'd inherited from my grandmother, was in transition. Being rerouted. And if I didn't stop it now, it would be out of my name. Forever. Why would he do that? Why now? I asked, though I already knew. Timing, Rafe said. They wanted you distracted. Vulnerable. And marriage is the perfect distraction. You can't fight two things at once, love and theft. I clicked the audio file next. Soft static. Then Julia's voice whispering, tight. Once the transfer clears, we're done. I don't care what happens to her. Just make sure she doesn't find out. A beat. Leo, you'll get your cut. But keep your mouth shut. She's still useful until Tuesday. I shut the laptop. Rafe watched me like I might shatter. I didn't. I stood. Sometimes grief feels too slow for betrayal. This wasn't heartbreak. It was war. I'm going home, I said. Wait, that's not smart. I turned. You said there's more. There is. He hesitated. System logs show someone else accessed the security footage before I did. When? About an hour ago. 4:12 a.m. Remote login. They copied the file. The IP matches a cell tower in North Historic District. I blinked. That's our neighborhood. Rafe nodded. Leo knew. Or worse, he expected this. You think I'm being set up, I whispered. I think this was never about love. It's about legacy. About leverage. Someone wants you erased, Marnie. Not hurt. Just removed. My pulse pounded like a countdown. Someone else is watching. Probably always has. Outside, the sky split open with rain. Thunder shook the rooftop. I grabbed the USB and turned to the door. Marnie, Rafe said, blocking the exit. We need a plan. We had one. It was a wedding. He flinched. Lightning flash. Then darkness. In the distance, my phone buzzed once in my pocket. Unknown number. You need to leave. Someone else accessed the footage an hour ago. Rain slammed the windshield like a warning. Wipers clicked on high, failing to keep up. I drove like every second counted because it did. Leo was still asleep when I left. Or pretending to be. I didn't look at him. I didn't say goodbye. The Lockridge estate sat at the edge of Savannah's historic district, half shielded by overgrown ivy and pride. My grandmother's name was still carved in stone on the gate. Margot L. Lockridge, 1916 to 2003. It used to mean something. Now it was bait. I killed the engine, slipped the USB into my pocket, and crossed the yard in silence. The house looked darker than usual. No porch light. No motion sensor flicker. The door wasn't locked. I stepped inside. The air smelled wrong. Damp. Dusty. Like someone had been through and unsettled everything. In the dining room, a chair was pushed back at an odd angle. The silver drawer was cracked open. Then I saw the envelope. It was laid out on the table like a dare. My name, handwritten across it. My mother's handwriting. The kind she used only for birthdays or bad news. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside a letter, a deed copy, and a post-it note. I didn't know they'd go this far. I'm sorry. My mother's signature. Denise Lockridge. I scanned the document. A new clause had been added to the estate deed 6 months ago, triggered automatically upon marriage. It gave Leo partial legal access to the house and land, provided I remained married and unaware of any material fraud. Meaning, if I filed for divorce after discovering the betrayal, he could fight it. If I waited too long, he could win. A loophole, hidden in legalese and generational guilt. I dropped into the dining chair. People always think theft means breaking in, but the cleanest crimes happen with signatures, not ski masks. My phone buzzed. Again, another blocked number. I let it ring out. Then a text. Don't go to the lawyer. They're not on your side. Call Rafe. Now. How the hell did they know where I was? I ran to the security panel. It blinked green. Active. I typed in the admin code. Wrong. Tried again. Denied. The system had been locked from a remote admin. Someone had been inside this house after me, maybe while I was at the restaurant. I grabbed my bag and turned. A knock at the front door. I froze. Second knock. Louder. Ms. Lockridge? Savannah County Registry. Not a name. A title. Too vague. I stepped to the window, peered out from the corner. A woman stood in a raincoat, clipboard in hand, but her boots were military grade. Her stance too solid, too ready. Registry agents don't wear earpieces. I backed away, slowly. She knocked again. I cut through the kitchen, pulled open the cellar door and slid inside, barefoot, breath shallow. The moment I shut the door behind me, I heard the front door creak open. She was inside. Whoever she was, she didn't knock a third time. In the dark, I crawled past old wine crates and forgotten paintings. My hand brushed something plastic. A bag. Heavy. Burnt smell. Something metal inside. I pulled it closer, cracked it open. Money. Stacks. Sealed in zip pouches. And documents. Foreign passports. One had Leo's photo. Different name. Another had Julia. With red hair. What the hell were they planning? A floorboard creaked above me. She was moving. Then silence. I waited. 1 breath. 2. My phone vibrated again. 1 word this time. Run. I didn't think. I ran. Up the narrow cellar stairs. Breath burning in my chest. No plan, no route, just flight. The front door slammed. Heavy boots against hardwood. She was inside. Or maybe they were. I didn't stop to count. The back kitchen window. I launched through it, palms slicing on the sill, landing hard in the muddy flower bed. Crawled. Scrambled. Blood mixed with dirt. My heartbeat sounded like a siren in my ears. Run first. Think later, I muttered. Only way to survive a trap. Behind the hedges, I slid into the shadows. I stayed low, watching as 2 figures exited the house minutes later. Rain slicked their coats. Neither spoke. One carried a small black bag. The one from the cellar? They got into a navy SUV. No plates. No lights. Just gone. I made it to Rafe's in under 20 minutes. He opened the door before I knocked. Eyes wide, jaw tight. You're bleeding. I found passports, I said. In my house. hidden in the cellar with cash. Whose? Leo, Julia, and one with my face on it. That silenced him. I dropped the bag on the table, pulled out the contents. 3 passports, all foreign, all issued in the last 3 weeks. Different names, different birthplaces. But mine? Mine was dated 2 months ago, meaning they'd planned this long before the wedding. I think they were going to make me disappear, I said. Legally. On paper. Then for real. Rafe swallowed. Jesus. I wasn't meant to find the estate clause, or the footage, or this. Who tipped you off? I shook my head. Anonymous texts. They know things before I do. He looked at the window, drew the curtain. You're being watched. I was always being watched. I just didn't realize it. We reviewed the documents, one by one. Fake banking forms, real notary stamps, a power of attorney letter, dated 2 days before the wedding, naming Julia as my emergency proxy. But that's not legal, Rafe said. You'd have to be incapacitated, unconscious, or declared mentally unfit, or missing. He looked up sharply. My mind reeled. What if the plan wasn't just to scam me? What if the plan was to vanish me entirely? No Marnie, no wife, no widow, just silence. It happens, quietly, cleanly, especially when everyone thinks you're unstable, emotional, weak. My sister once told me, the world eats soft women and calls it justice. I used to think she was bitter. Now I think she was right. My phone vibrated. Blocked again. Text. They're checking financials now. You have 24 hours before they move. Whoever this is, I said to Rafe, they're inside the game. Or worse, they started it. He pulled his laptop toward him. There's someone I want you to talk to. Nolan Beck. Works at AMC Security. Private investigations. He's ex-FBI. He owes me a favor. Is he clean? Rafe gave a grim smile. He's expensive. That usually means yes. Nolan met us at a coffee shop in Midtown. Late 40s. Blunt eyes. Suit that didn't quite fit, like he missed his old badge. He scanned me like a suspect and a victim all at once. You married into a nest of liars, he said without intro. And your name's now flagged on a withdrawal request out of the Caymans. What? He turned his iPad. $500,000. Attempted last night. Blocked. Bank flagged it. The account was opened in your name 4 months ago. I've never been to the Caymans. You don't have to go in person to get framed, he said. You just have to trust the wrong people. I blinked. Swallowed hard. This goes deeper than real estate, he added. This is laundering. Possibly racketeering. And if your name's on it, they'll burn you before they burn themselves. I gripped the edge of the table. Can I stop it? He didn't smile. Not if you keep reacting. You need to go on the offensive. Find the weak link. Find the one who's scared. And squeeze. I stared at him. I think I know who that is, I whispered. Because there was one name, one voice I hadn't heard since the wedding. And Julia never stayed quiet unless she was hiding something. Night swallowed the industrial district whole. No streetlights. No sound except the hum of distant generators and my pulse kicking against my ribs. Rafe led the way through a chain-link gate, the metal cold under his hands. Nolan followed behind me, his eyes sharp, scanning shadows like they could peel open. This is where she meets her buyers, Rafe whispered. Julia keeps everything off record here. Off record is where people vanish, Nolan muttered. Stay close. Cut scene. We reached the warehouse door, rusted, slashed with graffiti. Rafe typed in a code like he'd done it 100 times. The lock clicked. Inside, darkness. Then a flicker overhead, revealing a narrow corridor full of dust and stale heat. I smelled burned paper, melted plastic, something dying. My throat tightened. A truth someone once told me flashed through my mind. If you want to know who someone really is, watch what they destroy. We moved quietly. Nolan pointed left. I followed his hand. Voices. 2. Low. Controlled. Julia's was unmistakable, smooth, confident, a voice that had once braided itself around my secrets like friendship. You'll deliver the documents, she said. Rafe will handle the audit side. And once the assets clear, we disappear. Clean. I froze. Rafe didn't. He stepped forward. Julia turned. Her smile barely moved. Right on time. Something in my stomach cracked open. Rafe. My voice shook. You're working with her. His eyes didn't meet mine. You weren't supposed to come this far. Cutscene. Nolan drew his weapon, but a man in a dark suit, Julia's lawyer, stepped from behind a pillar, gun raised, steady. Drop it, he said. Nolan cursed under his breath. Should have known this would stink of lawyers. Rafe grabbed my wrist, hard enough to bruise. Don't fight. It's easier when you don't fight. I tore my arm away. Why? Why help them? He exhaled, almost tired. Money. Survival. No different from anyone else. Julia circled me like a shark, heels echoing on concrete. She touched my shoulder, the way someone might test a bruise. You were always so easy to read, Marnie. That's why I picked you. People like you bend. And once they bend, they break. My breath went sharp. You faked my signature. You tried to steal my house. Your house. She laughed softly. Your grandmother signed it into a trust 10 years ago. Leo just helped unlock it. You should thank him. And the offshore accounts. I shot back. Julia's smile sharpened. You think crime is difficult? All it takes is access to your phone when you're asleep. A thumbprint. A reset password. People build their own cages and call it convenience. My vision tunneled. They'd used my biometric login, my apps, my synced documents. All legal, all traceable, all deadly. Nolan lunged. The lawyer fired. A sharp crack. Sparks snapped off a metal beam. The smell of hot steel filled the air. Julia grabbed my arm. Time to finish this. Cutscene. 2 men emerged from the shadows, muscular, masked. One held restraints, the other a black duffel. Rafe stepped closer. It's better if you don't see it coming. Just breathe. Go to hell. He looked almost sad. Already there. One of the men yanked my arms back. A needle glinted in his hand. A syringe. No, not like this. I twisted, kicked, bit down on pure terror. My shoulder hit concrete hard. Pain ripped through me. Nolan shouted something, but another shot rang, ricocheting. The whole warehouse flashed white for a second. Slow motion. The syringe met my skin. Sharp. Cold. I felt a push. Liquid fire sliding into me. My vision doubled. The room blurred. Julia crouched beside me, her face soft with mock sympathy. Don't worry. It's just enough to make you lose control of the wheel on the way home. A tragic accident. Happens every day. I clawed uselessly at the floor. Julia leaned closer, lips brushing my ear. By morning, everything transfers clean. Cutscene. My fingers found my phone. I hit record. The screen swam. Someone kicked it out of my hand. Julia laughed. Oh, sweetheart. You won't be awake for long. I tried to lift my head, tried to stay conscious, tried to breathe past the chemical fog drowning my brain. But the world dimmed. My chest heaved once. Twice. Everything went black around the edges. And the last thing I heard before the dark took me was her voice. You're not supposed to wake up from this. I woke to sterile white. Bleach. Beeping monitors. Plastic curtain rails. My throat burned like it had been scrubbed raw. For line. Oxygen tube. Machines I didn't recognize. I wasn't dead, but someone had tried. The nurse leaned over me, kind eyes and tight lips. You're lucky, she whispered. They found you unconscious in your car outside the warehouse. Someone called it in anonymously. Nolan. It had to be. My body was broken, but my memory wasn't. Julia's voice echoed in my head like poison. By morning, everything transfers clean. Not this time. Cut scene. 3 days later, I sat across from AMC's internal investigator. The footage from my phone, retrieved from the cloud, played on a screen. Blurry, shaky, but the audio was clear. Julia's voice. Rafe's confession. Everything. The investigator paused. Rewound. Played it again. You realize this implicates several executives, she said slowly. I nodded. And a lawyer. Maybe more. She leaned back. This isn't going away quietly. It never should have been quiet to begin with. She pressed a folder across the table. Evidence gathered by Nolan. Transactions. Account movements. Property transfers forged under my name. Logged under shell companies with ties to Julia. You can press charges. Or take a payout to stay quiet. I didn't hesitate. I want them in prison. Cut scene. The trial was a circus. Julia sat in her expensive suit, unmoved, unbothered. But her eyes twitched when the footage played. Her mask cracked when the prosecution dropped a bombshell. Julia had also forged signatures to seize properties from elderly clients with no heirs. It wasn't just me. The courtroom sucked in its breath as the names scrolled on the screen. One of them, Leo's grandmother. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes it guarantees the knife in your back. Julia pled not guilty. The jury didn't buy it. Cut scene. Leo didn't show up once. His number changed. His office emptied. Our apartment lease mysteriously dissolved. He ghosted me like I'd been the mistake. You can't control who betrays you, Nolan said once, outside the courtroom. But you can damn well choose what you do after. Some people hide behind shadows. Others burn everything to light them up. Ichosfera. Cut scene. Weeks passed. My name was cleared. My assets returned. But I didn't move back into the city. I sold the house. Deleted the shared files. Shut down my social media. Silence became my armor. But not isolation. I started over in a coastal town, part-time at a nonprofit, helping women reclaim their finances after domestic financial abuse. There's a kind of grief when you realize your life has been written by someone else's lies. But there's also power in rewriting it. One woman, older, frail, with cloudy eyes, clutched my hand after a workshop and whispered, "Thank you." No one ever told me I was allowed to fight back. I just smiled. Sometimes healing isn't loud. It's quiet choices, tiny revolutions. Cut scene. One night, I stood on the edge of the pier, wind clawing at my coat. Nolan called. They sentenced her. 20 years. No parole. I exhaled. Then silence. Then, they're reopening a case tied to one of her companies. An anonymous tip came in. Offshore accounts. Looks like your husband's signature is on some of them. I closed my eyes. Leo had disappeared, but the paper trail never did. Are you ready for another round? Nolan asked. I watched the waves break against the shore. You know what they say, I murmured. Some storms don't pass. You just learn to dance wet. He chuckled softly. That's either genius or insane. Maybe both. Cut scene. Before I hung up, I glanced at the stars. They looked like tiny eyes watching, waiting. But this time I wasn't afraid. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with secrets. It's the one who survived them all and refused to stay silent.